de Lorme by G.P.R. James. Narrated by Lynne Thompson. Chapter 1. I was born in the heart of Berne in the year 1619, and if the scenery amongst which we first open our eyes, and from which we receive our earliest impressions, could communicate its own peculiar character to our minds, I should certainly have possessed 1,000 great and noble qualities that might have taught me to play a very different part from that which I have done, in the great tragic farce of human life. Nevertheless, in contemplating the strange contrasts of scenery, the gay, the sparkling, the grand, the gloomy, the sublime, wherein my infant years were passed, I have often thought I saw a sort of picture of my own fate, with its abrupt and rapid changes, and even in some degree of my own character, or rather of my own mood, varying continually through all the different shades of disposition, from the lightest mirth to the most profound gloom, from the idlest heedlessness to the most anxious thought. However, it is not my own peculiar character that I sit down to depict. That will be sufficiently displayed in the detail of my adventures, but it is rather those strange and singular events which, contrary to all probability, mingled me with great men, and with great actions, and which, continually counteracting my own will, impelled me ever on the very opposite course from that which I struggled to pursue. For many reasons it is necessary to commence this narrative with those early years, wherein the mind of man receives its first bias, when the seeds of all future actions are sown in the heart, and when causes, in themselves so trifling as almost to be imperceptible, chain us to good or evil, to fortune or misfortune, for ever. The character of man is like a piece of potter's clay, which, when fresh and new, is easily fashioned according to the will of those into whose hands it falls, but its form once given and hardened, either by the slow drying of time, or by its passage through the ardent furnace of the world, men may break it to atoms, but never bend it again to another mould. Our parents, our teachers, our companions, all serve to modify our dispositions. The very proximity of their faults, their failings, or their virtues, leaves, as it were, an impress on the flexible mind of infancy, which the steadiest reason can hardly do more than modify, and years themselves can never erase. To the events of those early years I owe many of my errors in life, and my faults and their consequences are not without their moral, for in my history, as in that of every other man, it will be found that punishment of some kind never failed to tread fast upon the heels of each wrong action, and in one instance a few hours of indiscretion mingled a dark and fearful current with the course of many an after year. To begin, then, with the beginning, I was, as I have said, born in the heart of the little mountainous principality of Berne, which, stretching along the northern side of the Pyrenees, contains within itself some of the most fertile and some of the most picturesque, some of the sweetest and some of the grandest scenes that any part of Europe can boast. The chain of my native mountains, interposing between France and Spain, forms a gigantic wall, whereby the unerring hand of nature has marked the limits of either land, and although this immense bulwark is in itself scarcely broken by any but very narrow and difficult passes, yet the mountainous ridges which it sends off, like enormous buttresses, into the plain country on each side, are intersected by a number of wide and beautiful valleys, rich with all the gifts of summer, and glowing with all the loveliness of bright fertility. One of the most striking, though perhaps not one of the most extensive, of these valleys is that which, running from east to west, lies in a direct line between Count of Bigorre and the little town and castle of Lourdes. Never have I seen, and certainly never shall I now see, any other valley so sweet, so fair, so tranquil, never one so bright in itself, or so surrounded by objects of grandeur and magnificence. I need not say after this that it was my native place. The dwelling of my father, Roger de Lorme, Count de Bigorre, was perched up high
Sample complete. Ready to continue?